enjoy the patterns and textures you find on beach rocks or even river rocks? Well, join me today as we try this bubble technique to create a very unique piece of art. Now, let's dive in. Welcome, SeaRoxxers. Well, to start off our unique and creative patterns, we're going to use some big blob of blue paint, and we're just going to mix that right up on the board. And the board size I'm using today is a 10 by 10. Once our blue layer is completely dry, I'm going to use a layer of blue-gray and some cling wrap. And just remember to make sure and keep this layer wet and work rather quickly, because if you don't keep it wet, then the cling wrap effect won't work. After you've painted it to how you like it, then put that saran on and just start squishing. Then make sure to leave it there until it is completely dry before you pull it off. Okay, and here's the first reveal of our first layer of texture. Let's see. Oh, check it out. I love this technique because it just gives such unique results. Make sure it's all dry before you go on to the next layer. Now, I did take some sandpaper to this just to knock off the high ridges to make it just a little easier painting surface. Also, I didn't get quite as much of the dark blue showing through on that gray, probably because the layer was pretty thick, but that's okay. I'm going to add some more blue on top. Once you're happy with that, then make sure you let it completely dry before you go on to the next step. So we're going to create some bubbles, and this is my practice board, and I actually did this bubble recipe, tweaked it about 2-3 times. So I highly suggest that you do that depending on the products you're using, because it probably won't match mine exactly. And just a helpful hint, I used Mod Podge between the paint layer and the bubble layer, so the bubbles didn't reconstitute any of the paint and create mixed colors. All right, our ingredients list for the bubbles is some white acrylic paint, a cup to mix it in, and some Dawn or some sort of dish detergent. Then you will also need a straw to blow your bubbles and something to stir it with. And don't forget water, although it doesn't need to be in a squirt bottle. Now, you can take my recipe and make this a jumping off point for yourself. My particular recipe here was about a quarter size blob of white acrylic paint. And to that, I added a 1/2 ounce of water and mixed those so there weren't any chunks. That was nice and smooth. And next was the very unscientific method of measuring dish soap. And this is why I say test your recipe, because I found that I had to add less water and more dish soap, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I did about 3 of these, I don't know, whatever you'll call it. You can see 3 things of dish soap. And then give that a nice stir until it's all mixed in there. And of course, our magic ingredient is cling wrap. Once you get your bubbles going, you're going to work fairly quickly and get those bubbles down. And then we're going to take that cling wrap and make sure it's big enough for your whole piece and put it right over the top. That is key because I tried it both ways. But do not squish it down. You're just going to lay it kind of right over the top. Unfortunately, it will fall into places that you don't want it, but it actually creates an incredibly cool effect. Now you're going to let this piece dry with a saran wrap over it completely before you take it off. To be honest with you, I thought this piece was ruined because those beautiful bubbles got squished in some places like that, and I didn't like it at all. But when I took the saran off and I saw what incredible texture and design this created and such intricacies, it was perfect. I couldn't express that anymore. Perfect for our rocks. Now we're finally onto our rock drawing, and I'm choosing the black because it was easier to see, and I was going to use some reference material just to get an idea of some rock shapes. And look at this, my first and favorite rock out of this whole piece is this part that I was so mad at in the very beginning because I felt it ruined the piece. Oh my gosh, life is so funny sometimes. Anyway, have fun creating your rocks. And just like that, we are done drawing, and now it is time to paint. We're going to take some black acrylic paint and a very fine tip brush, and you are just going to paint the outlines of your rocks right over those black marks. And you could just as easily use a Posca paint marker. I'm not quite sure why I didn't, but this is what I did instead. And just like magic, we are done outlining. Next, you're gonna wanna fill in the negative space between your rocks with the same black paint. Make sure your paint is dry before you start adding shadows. Now, depending on your colors, I'm using a navy, a gray, and a tiny bit of black to get the right colored shadow for my piece. And the brush that works best for me is an angled brush, and just sort of dip the point of the brush into the color and use the rest of the brush to help blend it out with a little bit of water. And just work those shadows until you're happy with your result. Next part is the highlights, and this is where it really comes to life. I've got white, a navy, and a tiny bit of gray, and my angled brush. Now, assuming in very simplistic terms, whatever side was your shadow, your highlight is going to be on the opposite side where your light source was coming from. And personally, this is actually my favorite part because they really come to life once you add that highlight, go with your highlights, your lowlights, and any other details you want to add. And it's just incredible how it turns out. I really love the abstract nature of all those textures and colors and designs we added because now it just looks, I don't know, like abstract rocks. It's so much fun. Now to finish off this piece, I am going to use Arteza's acrylic varnish in satin. And stay tuned because our beautiful reveal is next. Well, look at this. Sun's out, art's out. Let's look at some details and then the whole picture. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed yourself and perhaps you're inspired to try something new like some rock art. I invite you to join the SeaRoxx family. Like, share, and subscribe with all your salty and unsalted friends as well. Make sure you hit the bell so you never miss a video or anything else I happen to put out on a whim. You can find me on my other social media platforms, on my website, and my Etsy shop. Well, thanks for watching, and until next time, go beach or go home.